of 7:22.91. That's going to be an event to watch today at around 6:40 p.m.
And as credible as the history is here at the Track and Tennis Center when it comes to the men's mile, hundreds of sub-4s, the 5,000 meters is even more off the charts. The top 3 times in history are very old, over 20 years old. In fact, 2 of them, Carson, were contested and put in the books before you were born.
Yeah,
but
that's 2000,
4 and 5, Woody Kincaid with that blistering last lap 2 years ago. Grant Fisher a year ago took a shot at that American record, just missed. And in the top 50, it is just littered with races here at the Track and Tennis Center. 25 laps on this oval is just magic.
And let's not forget that Grant Fisher ran the final 15 laps of his race at the Terrier DMR Challenge here last year solo. The pacer stepped off that for 2K, and he still came within nearly 2/10 of Woody Kincaid's American record. And based on what we've seen from Grant thus far this season, a 3:33 1,500 meter PR and that 7:22 3K personal best, let's not forget his championship distances are the 5 and the 10,000 meters. So his speed is at a level that it has never been before. And that's what he's going to need to close out this 5K later today.
Yeah, and I had the honor of seeing Grant in high school win the Foot Locker National Cross Country Championships right on the heels of what Ed Cheserek did with his incredible closing speed. But you talked about the breadth of body of work of these athletes who are 5 and 10K runners outdoors. The 5K indoors, obviously a little bit of a different animal. You see the gap between the men's mile outdoor record and indoor record getting closer thanks to the efforts of those 2 stars over the last week. But the outdoor 5K, again, you just have a little more opportunity, fewer turns just to really relax and run long straightaways, even though if we see something in the 1240s, the pace supposedly at 1242, heading into, as you said, the nightcap tonight in the 6 o'clock hour, men's 5,000 meters at BU.
Yeah, and when Grant Fisher asked for 12:42 pace, I think that was just yet another display of his confidence. He's been confident all season long, just listening to him in his post-race interviews and each and every conversation he's had leading up to this 5K effort. This is essentially going to be the pinnacle of his indoor season. As he said, he was essentially planning to go from 15 to 3K up to this 5K, then shut it down for a bit before gearing back up for the first year of Grand Slam Track Come Outdoors. So it's going to be a new type of year for Grant Fisher, but he's feeling better than ever, bottom line.
When you demolish the 3K indoor world record, that's got to give you a lot of confidence.
The 3K indoor world record again.
No, as I said, when you demolish it, it's got to give you a tremendous amount of confidence going into a 5K.
Oh, absolutely. Again, for a guy like Grant Fisher who comes from more of that strength background, the speed is always something that even he's admitted that he's quote unquote takes a little bit longer to get up to speed versus some of your switch flick kickers like a Cole Hocker, whom he took down in that Millrose 3,000 meters. And so with that in mind, Grant Fisher, we already know how steady he is as a closer and just understands pace. He rarely trains even with a watch in his workouts. He has such a good internal clock, and we're going to need to see him showcase all of that knowledge that he's built up over the years and veteranship on this track today.
The first event on the schedule this morning, again, getting us started 9 o'clock on the East Coast, is the men's distance medley relay. This is one that's moved around on the schedule. Normally a track and field meet closes with the 4x4, but as you've already heard, we're going to wrap things up with the 5K tonight. But the men's DMR, Carson, has some interesting D2 and D3 teams near the top of the national rankings.
Absolutely. If we look at a couple of the top slated teams coming in, we have the number 2 ranked Division III school in this, Baldwin Wallace University out of Berea, Ohio. Look out for the Yellow Jackets in this. Looks like Brown's out to the early lead, our lone Division I school in this, but if you're one of the D2 schools or potentially D3 schools, you got to feel good knowing that you can run with D1.
So we have Monroe University in the lead. They are a JUCO school out in front, and as Carson said, the Brown Bears right behind them from the Ivy League, sitting in the number 2 spot. Carson and I were down on the infield before the start of the meet. We saw Alabama Huntsville, the top-ranked Charger squad in Division II, coming into the meet today.
Yeah, they're right outside of the top 16 in the nation for Division II schools at 958.99. That's number 17. And as we know, you've got to place in that top 16 come championship season to be able to qualify for NCAAs.
And even though it's only midway through February, it's still some time to go out there, hit some last chance meets, maybe some indoor conference meets. These teams realize that time is of the essence.
Absolutely. And considering where we are in contrast to D2 Nationals, we are officially less than a month away, as the D1, D3 Nationals, they don't begin until March 14th. D2 begins on March 13th. So yeah, we're officially less than a month away. That is 27 days from the start of the Division II National Championships. And look who's out front, our top D2 team, Alabama Huntsville.
The Chargers, again, number 17 at D2, just under 10 minutes. And a big change of the orders. They go through 800 at 202. This is the opening 1,200-meter leg.
That's West Texas A&M coming over to take the lead from the Lone Star State. And really, it was right around that 800 mark that they really pulled out from the slipstream. They were biding their time through those opening few laps, kind of letting the tactics take the wheel. And once they got comfortable, they said, hey, let's go ahead and take this and try and set up our 400-meter leg for success.
One to go on this opening 1,200. And again, as we mentioned every time that we talk about the DMR, the 1,200 meters is that anomaly that you're only going to see in relay action. There's no flat 1,200 that you can come in with a PR of X, Y, or Z. But our leaders out in front, West Texas A&M, the Buffaloes, going to take it through the zone just over 3 minutes for that opening 1,200. So just over a 4-minute, 1,600-meter run opener.
And that was a great last lap by A&M. They closed in around 28 seconds. So that goes to show you that they got plenty of stamina in the wheels. Of course, the 1,200-meter leg, you can have any 800 half-miler or a full miler or even a 2-miler dropping down. Any blend of mid-distance strength can really boil well in that 1,200 leg.
2-miler, Carson, you're sounding like me. That is really old school. Nobody says 2-mile anymore, unless it's indoor.
Or on the high school scene. I find myself on that contingent a lot, but we're here in college. It's the 400-meter legs. Now, things are starting to tighten up here. As we say so often, the 400-meter leg, though it only weighs about 10% of the overall weight of a DMR, you can definitely shift momentum with it.
The exchange number 2, 349, so about a 48 and change for our leaders from West Texas A&M, Alabama Huntsville in the number 2 spot. So, based on seed time alone, Alabama Huntsville, they put themselves down for a 9:41. So obviously having some good early season workouts for the Chargers down where the climate is just a little warmer. A very cold, windy day in Boston, and it's going to start to turn and look more like winter, but it's going to be great inside at the Track and Tennis Center, the 800-meter run leg of the DMR.
West Texas A&M looking very comfortable out front. Alabama Huntsville, they're about 10 meters back, and they look tempted to try and close that gap quickly on A&M, but they know that this is still an 800-meter run, and it requires a lot of patience and pacing, and if you go out too hard too early, you could pay for it in the last couple of laps.
So the roster from West Texas A&M, Allen, Firmly, Macabalo, Muhammad, and Amposan, the 5 runners that they brought to town potentially for a run at moving up in the rankings and the D2 men's distance medley relay. And speaking of DMRs, next week, Friday, it is going to be the Terrier DMR Challenge and Last Chance Meet. It's going to be a great one, and it's going to be live Friday evening back here in Beantown on FloTrack.
I remember that was the event, as we mentioned off the top, that we saw Grant Fisher nearly take down the American record last year. So not just the distance medley relays, but we're going to have some exciting individual track action at that event as well. Here comes the anchor.
1,600 meters ago, 5:40. So if you're looking at a 4 flat mile, we're in the 940 range, just like we were talking earlier. It looks like Northwest Missouri is the only one currently under 940, Carson.
Yes, and they're just outside of a second within the 936 Division II record. We'll see what A&M and Alabama Huntsville have in them. Of course, West Texas A&M not necessarily in the top list of distance medley teams right now. Alabama Huntsville just outside of that top 16, with our top Division II team representing this being the Raiders of Shippensburg University at number 11 with their season best of 9:51.70, but they're not really in the picture right now. That's Flagler in third. They're another Division II school to watch, looking to move up those rankings, coming all the way up from yet another state with warmer climates, St. Augustine in Florida.
So going into the 1,600-meter relay leg, whether it's in the 4x16, whether it's in the DMR, it is obviously a very comforting feeling to have somebody right there with you.
Absolutely, and you can tell that these top two, having joined forces, have almost turned this into a bit of a sit-and-kickers race. They went out in around a 61 for our leaders for that opening 400. Our trailers, Alabama Huntsville, probably went a little bit under 60 there. But based on the way they're moving, they're setting up for a kickers race.
But the important thing is the numbers on the clock, because they come to BU to run fast, and I am certain their coaches are saying, okay guys, we got to go with whether it's 600 to go, whether it's 800 to go. We came all this way from either Alabama or West Texas to run fast at the fastest track in the world, the Track and Tennis Center at Boston University.
Right, and if I were either of these teams, I'd rather say that I ran second with a fast time than say I simply beat a tactical field of five. This is an invitational. This is not a race with championship implications. Rather, it's a race that can set you up for championship season. And that's what's got to be running through their minds right now as they go throughout this last 800.
So the D2 indoor national record, American International 936.62, was run just over 3 years ago on this oval with the John Thomas Terrier Classic. Again, 936.62, a number to keep in mind for the Division II national record. We've seen, as I mentioned in the opening, collegiate, U.S., and world records broken. We've seen D2 records shattered here in the 5K at the John Thomas. Romain Legendre from Adams State, 13:02.08. He is going to be back here. I believe he is going after that 3K mark, which was set, of course, here by young man Scomperin from the Colorado School of Mines, 7:43. So that's something, the 3Ks scheduled at 4:20 and after this afternoon.
Let's not forget who Loic Scomperin of the Colorado School of Mines took that D2 record from, and that was Legendre's former teammate, Miguel Coca. Speaking of our top D2 contenders, look at Alabama Huntsville. They took that lead around 600 meters to go and have held on to it ever since, entering the final 300.
And those Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference schools are just incredible. Whether it's the Ore Diggers, whether it's Adams State, whoever it is, those teams come to play serious track and field, and we are side by side with one to go at 9:20.
A&M's got the lead right back. They were very patient. They haven't taken any glances in the rear view. They've been focused on everything that's in front of them, and now they've got to carry it home in this final 150.
So 9 teams have run faster than 950 this year in Division II. We are at 940 with just under 100 meters to go.
And here comes Huntsville back on the outside. The Chargers.
It is going to be West Texas A&M taking them all the way out into lane 3, just missing that 950 mark. Officially 950.23. West Texas A&M, the Buffaloes, with the win.
So 950.23 by A&M will move them into number 10 in the DMR for Division II. And that move at the end, they could sense that Alabama Huntsville was closing fast. They didn't obstruct, they simply moved out while they still had time and space, and so they're safe, they'll get the win. UAH, they'll be number 11 in Division II, right behind.
And we'll step aside just for a moment and be back with the prelims in the 60-meter hurdles. Men's Day, Day 1, the David Hemery Valentine Invitational, live on FloTrack. We have moved from one of the fastest ovals in the world to the infield at the Track and Tennis Center. Phil Grove, Carson Gumboro, back at BU, day one of the David Hemery Valentine Invitational. And again, the namesake of this meet, one of the finest 400-meter hurdlers of all time, back in the 68 games from Australia. He was the Edwin Moses before there was Edwin Moses. Just a tactician, just an incredible performer in one of the most difficult events in track and field. And of course, he went to Boston University. So one of the namesakes in the series of meets that FloTrack is happy to bring you live from BU. And if you are follow FloTrack on social, don't forget today, live to social all the way up through the 10:45 mark, which would be the 60-meter dash finals when we come back off the prelims this morning. All of this live coverage is going to be on our social platforms.
Absolutely. And you talk about David Hemery, the Great Britain hurdler back from the 1968 games, and this is, I believe, the 10th David Hemery Valentine Invitational. It's been around the meet before his namesake, but ever since 2014, it has inherited his name. And it's ironic, right? Because he was a 400 hurdler, and this is an indoor meet where we don't get to see that trademark event contested. But still, a lot of 400-meter hurdlers that you talk to really value getting some work in on the high hurdles indoors over the 42-inch height, just to build some of that power when you go over those 36-inch barriers. Once you go outdoors for the 400-meter hurdles, it just makes it such a seamless transition, and you feel so much more efficient when you're out there on the full oval.
And again, my correction on that, again, running for Great Britain, of course, gold in 68, silver in 72 in the 4x4 relay, and bronze in his specialty, the 400 hurdles. Carson, you mentioned about the hurdles. One of the major adjustments from high school to collegiate and then professional track is in the men's high hurdles, going from 39 to 42 inches. Shot put goes from 12 pounds to 16. But this is a really difficult one if you are, let's say, inseam challenged.
So it's very likely that we're going to see some hurdles clipped as a result. But again, that's just part of the adjustment that a lot of these athletes have to make. If you want to make those finals, you got to go number one in your heat or achieve the next 5 non-auto times from these 4 prelims.
And a good start for the field, and out in lane number 6. That is Keeson Kai from Amherst, but back in 3, running easy through the zone. Jameer Brown from Rowan came in with a 7:72 seat time. He goes 8:05. And as Carson said, the big Q goes to the heat winner. We do have 4 sections to determine our finalist. The facility record in this event, 7:71 by Ethan Exoholm from Northeastern and Terrell Williams from Connecticut. Both of those young men 2 years ago, 7:71.
And you mentioned Jameer Brown, who comes in with that seat time of 7:72. Looked like he was definitely saving some gears once he hit that 5th and final barrier and cruised it through to the line, knowing that he had that auto cue and is going to save some of his best running for the final.
And right now, standing and taking a close look at hurdle number 1 in his lane, that is Micah Perry from Boston University. In lane 4, he has the top seed time of 7:90. You see our field set up for heat number 2 of 4. Once again, the first one across the line will automatically return for our final, which is set for 10:40 this morning.
Of course, that will also be in our live social preview on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter/X. We'll be taking you all the way up until there. If you're in our live chat, say hello. We're happy to have you here with us. Of course, we got plenty of exciting distance events to look out for too, but these are some potential returners that you're going to witness towards the latter end of our opening morning program. Heat number 2. Checking out our seed times here. As you mentioned, Micah Perry, the hometown terrier, he spends so much time practicing on this track, and it's all about execution from here.
Yeah, an event like this, you definitely want to be as comfortable as possible. And in lane 4, that is Perry in the red and white of Boston University. He's going to hit the line about a stride ahead of the field. He runs 8:22. Not anywhere really close to that seat time, but hey, he's number 1 across the line. He wins by 1700ths over David Strong from Monmouth.
And if I heard him correctly when he crossed that line, he said, "Let's go," knowing that he had done his job, secured the auto cue. Once they got off the line, it looked like he had a very miniature twitch coming out of the blocks. Of course, that's natural. Nobody's going to stay completely still as a statue, but not anywhere near to the point of infraction. But again, knowing that he has given himself another chance to run this event today, he'll probably look to achieve an even better start in the finals and work on that time as well.
And you see the athletes taking a look at those 42-inch hurdles, the alignment of those, the hurdle crew and the officials do their darndest to get everything as even for each and every one of the athletes in 9 lanes when we come back for the finals as possible. But just the slightest deviation in alignment when you're talking about going over 42-inch hurdles, 3 strides in between, you're up and down as quick as possible.
And it can be intimidating sometimes, more so just speaking from a human perspective. Of course, as someone who never did the hurdles, I would not even dream of doing the high hurdles over 42 inches. But again, when you're used to going over those 39-inch barriers, it can take an adjustment in your step patterns and how much energy you want to exert over each barrier. And that's what these guys spend countless hours working on. It's what they spend their warm-ups working on to try and fine-tune so that they're ready for this race and ultimately don't fall victim to those skyscraping hurdles.
Field of 7 called up in lanes 2 through 9. The veteran starters here are just incredible. They keep this meet moving along with all of the heats that we'll see later on today, especially in the 200 and 400 meters, dozens and dozens, and they make certain that there is no wasted time in between heats. Once again, lanes 3 through 9. One runner with a seed time under 8 seconds. Kawaku Nrumah from Rowan, 790. He's in lane 3. He's up and over, smooth over 1, 2, 3, 4. He is looking great through the line in 5. Wow, that was a very smooth, well executed 60-meter high hurdles by the young man from Rowan. 8:06 his official.
So smooth that he had time to take a rightward glance as he crossed that line. I'll tell you, Rowan, they've really brought some of their finest hurdlers here. Nkrumah, behind Jameer Brown, was the 2nd overall seed coming in, tied with Micah Perry, who we saw with the 2nd heat from BU. But based on the way that they've executed the prelims, 8:05 for Brown, 8:06 for Nkrumah, you have to think that the Rowan boys have the edge here.
Sure looking great in the prelims. Just one more heat, heat number 4. Again, this is the 60-meter high hurdles. We will be back for the finals in just over an hour, about an hour and 25 minutes. And as soon as we're done with this heat, we will sweep away the hurdles, get set up for the 60-meter dash prelims.
Just to expand a little bit on the Rowan fellas, they're actually the top 1 and 3 Division III high hurdlers over the 60-meter distance. Jameer Brown, 772 again, that time he achieved at the Fast Track season opener back at Ocean Breeze, and at the New York City Gotham Cup, also at the Ocean Breeze Athletic Complex in Staten Island, just across the pond from New Jersey where they reside. Kwaku Nkrumah clocked his 7.90, which is Division III, number 3 right now.
Yeah, you don't mess with D3. And what's interesting from my perspective, that the national lead was run in December. He's not a cross-country guy coming off of some 8K races at the D3 level. I mean, he's a guy who worked out hard, and obviously it showed. He opens with a national leader. And
hasn't been surpassed in over 2 months. I think that's just a testament. In fact, nobody's come within 1/1600ths of Jameer Brown, the top hurdler in Division III. So knowing that he's got that cushion. I mean, he's been just so consistent all season. And
again, another Rowan runner on the outside in 6, not the greatest start, stumbled a little bit. Maybe the smallest athlete in the field, but he is up and over those 42s. Wow, they know how to hurdle at Rowan. He came in at a 7:96 seed time. Marquise Young, 8:18. He is an auto qualifier. He will be back for the final of the 60-meter hurdles.
And he's also the number 5 hurdler in Division III. Need I be remiss to mention? So Rowan, safe to say that they're going to have the edges now. They've achieved the top 3 qualifying times in addition to collecting 3 of the 4 heat wins in the 60 hurdles.
And we will be back after a brief break with the 60-meter dash prelims live from BU. And it's time for the 60-meter dash. A little bit different qualification process this time, Carson. You have to be fast to make the final.
Yes.
The top 9 sprinters over this distance going from the far end of the facility right into our laps here at the Track and Tennis Center. The 9 fastest in the prelims come back for the final.
It's almost similar to what we've seen on the world scene with some of the mid-distance races, except in opposite fashion, right? They ditched a little Q on the world qualification standards, which essentially means you have to place a certain way in your heat to make it to the finals. But here, there's no big Q, meaning that you have to run fast, as you said, Phil, placing in the top 9 overall out of these.
Well, there are 8
prelims.
Yeah, there are 8 sections, so that's one reason why they don't give the auto qualifier and only have 1 get through on time.
Right.
The D2 national record 6:54. West Texas A&M Benjamin Azamati back in 2022. The collegiate record Terrence Jones also in 22. He ran for Texas Tech 6:45, and we'll tell you about the D3 mark, also pretty solid, set this year in 2025. And a clean start, full field, 9 runners, middle of the track in lane 5 and 3. So Leon Christian from BU and Tiandre Frett from Sprint Tech, British Virgin Islands, and it is Frett at 7:01, Christian at 7:04. It seemed like Christian had a little more left and just sort of eased through the line when you're coming in on time.
Wow. Yeah, that's the risk you run sometimes, and 7:01, that's still a pretty solid time overall when we consider the seeds and whatnot in terms of execution, because a lot of times you'll see athletes with seed times that may or may not reflect current season bests. They may reflect past personal bests or simply coaches' expectations, but you'll have to hope that that was fast enough to make it.
Yeah, Sam Bliskowski from the University of Wisconsin La Crosse, he set the D3 national record only 6 days ago. It looks like on his home track in the Mark Guthrie Legacy Invitational, 6.62 seconds. He is an established talent at the non-scholarship level. Heat number 2 on the oval, couple empty lanes in 1. Looks like actually just lane 1 is empty. So it's Gunther, Stevens, O'Connor, Franco, Connors, Scalia, Pena, and Tuning. Will we see our first sub-7-second run? A great shot with our assistant starter in this case, and the field. And we are underway in lane 4. That is Kevin O'Connor from Bates. The big guy from Bates, 7:03 unofficial, 7:04 officially. So it looks like that's like 3rd right now, I think. We had a flat 01 and a 4, so starting to fill up already.
Yeah, right around there, but the big key for Kevin O'Connor right there from Bates. I was about to call him Kevin Bates, which I'm sure he wouldn't mind. Perhaps an informal way of calling him his school's mascot, as he represented them very well, but staying patient in his rise from his blocks. There were a couple of other guys that didn't quite get up as smoothly, but O'Connor, he had a great drive phase, and that's how he was able to separate from the field by over 1/10 of a second, which is a very wide margin in a 60.
And obviously one of the focus points in the sprints, whether it's the 60 or the 100 or 50 or 55, is that transition phase going from the start. Once you get into that drive phase, and just make it as smooth and seamless as possible. Heat number 3, trying to get ready and settled into those starting blocks. One athlete coming in to seat time under 7 seconds, well under 7 seconds. Mikel Basu running unattached out of lane 3. We do have one empty lane, lane number 1 once again. And a good start. And it is in lane 3 and out in 5. That's going to be a tight one, but it looks like lane 3 is going to be your winner. Basu or Gail Vera from Wheaton and Mass. Basu at 7:03, I believe that is. And 7:07 for Vera from Wheaton in Massachusetts. So still nobody coming up with a 6 next to their name, Carson.
No, but a good win for Mikel Basu under pressure, 7:03. That should put him in contention right now. He's gone 6:85 before, represents the British Virgin Islands internationally, but coming here rocking the Nike Pro kit. Just pulled ahead at the end. He started slightly ahead and just had the spikes to maintain it. And a lot of these guys going to be really wondering what happens. I'm sure none of them have any idea if they're going to make it to the finals or not. We may see a heat winner or two fail to advance. That's just the brutal nature of this prelim to final format.
Right now we have 7 athletes under 7.10 seconds through the first 3 of 8 prelim heats.
And the way these prelims are seated, they've been placing the top athletes in one of the middle lanes, whether it be 3, 4, or 5 in each of these prelims in descending order. So, for example, our top 5 seeds won't all be placed in the same heat, because if they were, then that would kind of defeat the purpose of the time qualifier, because most of the fast seeds would come from one heat.
And a clean start, 1 through 8. And in the middle of the track from BU, but not able to hold on for the win. It looks like Joshua Genchas from Holy Cross. Yes, it is at 7:04, but a couple lanes over, Thomas Lampkin from BU at 7:08. So a couple more, now we're up to a full 9 at 7:09 or faster. And one of the things you just touched upon, Carson, and we've talked about here in previous meets, Coach John Moles, the meet director, about how the NCAA has changed their seeding procedures, where you have, starting out with the first heat, the 2 fastest seed times there. The next heat are 3 and 4. So if you have a 400 or an 800, like a dozen heats, you're not going to get the top 4 in that first heat. You'll get 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So you may have that first heat have 1 and 2, and then 15 and 16, and 28 and 30.
And that opens the door, yes, Phil. That opens the door to a lot of potential, quote-unquote, slow heat wins. We'll see them from time to time, and especially in prelims like this where everybody's on level ground. I mean, it's been pretty much carbon copy repeats as far as the final clock stoppage goes.
Another one of those athletes with seat time under 7 seconds. And this coming up, heat number 5, actually a couple. Dwayne Fleming from Monroe University, our JUCO school, out in lane 6. And Jaden Jackson, Sprint Tech, British Virgin Islands, in 4. A good start from Jackson in 4. And those two I mentioned, Jackson and Fleming. 4 and 6, it is Jackson. Our first one under 7, 6.95.
Yeah, and he came
Jaden
across
Jackson's
that line
protect.
with a great deal of confidence, yes. Let out a little victory burst. Of course, the win has not been secured just yet. He's still got to come back for the finals. He should be safely on based on the way he executed that preliminary run. And the difference between the last heat is that not only could he start fast, he could finish fast. And that's what's difficult to do in the 60, because a lot of athletes that specialize in the shortest of all collegiately contested sprints, they may struggle with the finish and may often find times when they get to the 100 meters outdoors that it's a lot more difficult to hold it for that extra 40 meters. But based on what we've seen just now from Jaden Jackson, he definitely had the speed endurance to hold it up there.
All right, just 3 more heats to go to get our 9 runners in this time-based final. So no auto cues out of this today in the 60-meter dash. We will head to the oval for the invitational sections of the 400 next. The day 1 of the David Hemery Valentine Invitational. This is Men's Day. All the events for the men tomorrow. The ladies will take over the program.
Pretty thin prelim here. It's going to be tough for a lot of guys with vacancies to their left and right.
It is a lot of open space, and on the outside in lane 8 trying to challenge Tyler Parche from New England Elite, but I think it is Parche. It is at 7:19. So he gets the heat victory. Not going to unfortunately get him in the final at 7:19, the young man from New England Elite.
Tyler Parche, an interesting story is he comes down from his 7:37 seed time, so he's got to be happy that he came here at PR, even though he's not going to partake in the final. He's definitely set the tone for one of the athletes who will be taking place in the next heat. That's a young man by the name of Jacob Parche, his twin brother.
I mentioned the collegiate records in this event. The facility record, Asafa Powell, all the way back in 2016, one of the all-time great sprinters running for Puma, 6.54 seconds.
Asafa Powell, we know him as the sub-10 king, and that consistency ultimately starts a lot of times in the indoor season, just dialing in that start, because so oftentimes we see that as the make or break point for a lot of sprinters' races. And that was just one thing that when he was running fast, Asafa Powell always nailed, eventually getting himself down to 9.7's territory as an outdoor sprinter.
Right now the bubble time is 7:07. We go all the way from 6:95 to 7:07. So that's what it's going to take right now through 6 heats to make the final in the men's 60. Clean start for the field of 7, lanes 2 through 8. And lane 4 had the nicest start. Tyler Fortune from Merrimack, a 6:96 sprinter, 7:03 officially. He might get himself in the final. He's just got one more heat to worry about. The 7:03 looking pretty good right now.
We did not have Jacob Parche, the twin brother of Tyler, from our previous heat in this, but back to the more pressing storyline, Tyler Fortune of Merrimack will have to leave his fortunes in limbo, because with all the 7:03s that we've seen, we could very well have final qualification spots come down to the 1,000th. And that's just one of the brutal elements of this sport that we see take place so oftentimes, where let's say you come into that juncture where you need to rely on a tiebreaker to make the final, and it comes down to 1,000th of a second, and they were in different heats. Only one can advance out of those 2 tiebreakers if need be.
Well, the bubble time is now 7:06. That is who is sitting on the bubble.
So they're safe.
After 7 sections.
Safe for now. So long as we don't see 3 guys go faster than that in this next heat, I believe.
I was looking forward to seeing the athletes from Sydney University Athletics Club in Australia. Well, actually, no, he is there. Nathaniel Giolanza in lane number 2. So coming up from down under to run at BU as we are full in lanes 2 through 9. Final chance to make the final in the men's 60-meter dash. Another clean start and a good one out in lane 6. That is Abate from Buffalo State. But the action in lanes 3 and 4, Jordan Harrison from Amherst and Donnell Harvey Jr., 7:02. He's going to be in the final in 7:04. Will Harrison also make the final? That's going to come down to, as Carson said, splitting hairs when it comes to fractions of a second. As we'll wait for those final numbers, there is our heat winner, Donnell Harvey Jr. from Middlebury.
And coming in, we had 3 guys at 7:04, and with the 7:02 run by Harvey ahead of him, it's going to come down to the 1,000th. There's a chance that one of the 4 7:04 guys will not advance. In fact, one of them will
definitely
not advance.
Right. With the 7:02 and another 7:04, and it could be Harrison from this last section with his 7:04.
And it is. There it is on the bottom. You see there with number 10, Harrison just bounced. Wow. That is tough.
So the field 695 to 704. Those are our qualifiers, all with little cues as we quickly transition to the 400-meter dash. Our starters are in place. We are coming up with 10 heats. The top 40 athletes over 2 laps at BU. The facility record is a fine one. Lalonde Gordon from Nike AC back in 2014, 45:17. The collegiate indoor record in the quarter, 44:49. Christopher Morales Williams from Georgia a year ago. That was just an eye-opener again. 44:49. He ran it down at Fayetteville, Arkansas.
And he really made an epic campaign for himself last year. Of course, did end the outdoor season on tired legs, but just really dominated the collegiate scene, winning both indoor and outdoor NCAAs, Christopher Morales Williams. But another name you mentioned there, Lalonde Gordon, really piqued my track history nerd senses there. One of the greatest runners to come out of Trinidad and Tobago. One of his career highlights, anchoring TTO to the World 4x4 title in London 2017, an epic comeback over Fred Curley of all people.
Yeah, one of the things that coaches on the collegiate side, and high school now too, with the indoor season starting in December, going all the way to March, rolling straight into outdoor, trying to keep your athletes fresh as you want to be at your top of your game at the conference and national championships. Out in lane 5, Rodee Brow from Weber State, making the big trip from the Rocky Mountains. And he's got the lead coming to the break line and lap number 1 in 22 and change.
And he's yet to replicate his seed time this season of 46:54, but we know he's gone that quickly outdoors. The Big Sky Conference runner-up, leading with 100 meters to go. Here comes Nick Morrison from Rhode Island.
Right, followed by Morrison and William Freeman from Monmouth. 1, 2, 3 running in order, single file, but it's going to be wire to wire for Rodee Brow from Weber State.
That should be a season best for Brow, the junior. Prior to this, he's run 48:51. That's as quickly as he came into the Boston University David Hemery Valentine Invitational with. But he's now down to 48:21. Nice 3/10 improvement there.
So that is the mark to beat.
And again, like we said before, Phil, that mark is going to be up for grabs for the remainder of our invitational sections. because of the seedings that we've seen with the top 2 athletes followed by the next 2 in lanes 5 and 6 for each section.
The preferred lane, once again, for the first 160 meters is lane 5. They break for the rail. It is Jupp, Janze, and Lehman in lanes 3, 4, and 5, representing Yale, Colby, and the Friars of Providence. Pretty even. Wow, they are 3 abreast. Battling for the rail, going through in 22 and change. It is Brett Lehman from Providence in the lead.
He's another one with a 48 season best, but has shown the ability to go 47 low, but he's got to hold off his challenger on his outside. This is where it's crucial to have that interior position, making your competition work for it.
Ren Zanze from Colby is going to win this one by the narrowest of margins. And potentially a new leader. It is 48-17 for senior Ren Zanze from Colby.
And I mentioned around that far turn how Zanze had to really do a lot of work, more than he perhaps would have liked, but he didn't shy away from the challenge whatsoever. He ran that entire bend in lane 2, didn't get the lead instantly, but he stayed hard on his pressure and kept it going and eventually got by for the win. We got a high schooler in this. Look out for Jalen Bennett from Phillips Exeter Track Club coming down from New Hampshire. He's a 47-43 performer in lane number 5.
And definitely have called the name Phillips Exeter Track Club a number of times already this indoor season, Carson, here in the live streams at BU. A full field, Singleton, Miller, Bennett, and Cardasia representing Wesleyan, SUNY Geneseo, Phillips Exeter, and Binghamton on the outside. So a good mix of conferences, athletic levels, and the high schooler. And he is going all in. Jalen Bennett, a 47-4 performer coming into this meet. He's up by about 4 meters at the break. Goes through 21 high, 22 low. But he's starting to get gassed a little bit going into the back straight.
Look out for Jacob Miller representing SUNY Geneseo. He won a Division I New York State title in the 400 back for Brockport High School, also out of Western New York. And also Joe Cardascia from Binghamton, a 3-way battle coming off the turn.
Things are getting busy in this heat of the 400 meters, but going wire to wire. From Phillips Exeter, Jalen Bennett, 47.64. That is the new leader by half a second.
And he nearly broke his lifetime best. That was an indoor best for Jalen Bennett. Of course, he ran his 47-43 outdoors, but as far as the United States high school ranks go, he's now tied for number 15th in the nation.
And as lightning fast as this oval is over a mile, 3,000, 5,000, it isn't known for cranking out 400 times, but that was an incredible effort for Jalen Bennett, 47-64. This is heat number 4 of 10, our invitational groupings in the 400 meters. An open lane in 5, our preferred lane. Milan, Naff, and Spicer representing Yale, Coast Guard, and BU. And Matthew Spicer, a sub-48 400 runners, opening up a little bit of a gap on the outside in 6, running up against the rail. He's got the visuals as he goes through in 21 point. It could be the fastest 200 split so far. He needs to dig and keep moving those arms.
He looks a little bit tense right now, and I don't blame him. He's done a lot of work to get to this point. Regardless of the time, he's really put in a boatload of effort here, and the field is coming back to him. He's got to finish here.
That is Ian Naff from the Coast Guard Academy in the number 2 spot, closing. Here he comes to the line. Ooh. And I think Naff edged him. We will find out in a second. Nope, Spicer, 48.74. Boy, that was close. 1/100th of a second from this perspective, and not the on the finish line angle that obviously our folks, our friends at Lancer Timing have. 48.74 for the win, wire to wire for Spicer from BU.
You would have had to flip a coin to tell me who won that heat right there. You got to give Spicer Ten's credit there, of course, he did tie up towards the finish, but he didn't quit. And he ran wire-to-wire victory yet again. So long as you get that win, give yourself a fighting chance for another run.
Full field in heat number 5. And we have a couple D3 schools making the trip from Western Ohio. Cameron Elliott from Wittenberg, and then Susquehanna's Elliott Davis. They're on the outside in 5 and 6, sub 48 second. A little bit of a blip by Elliott Davis coming out of the brake line. I don't know if he broke too early, but he took an awkward step. But it's D3 up front.
Elliott Davis, he still looks plenty strong and powerful, starting to puff his cheeks a little bit, trying to exhale every ounce of relaxation he can summon. He's going to need it. Elliott almost seemed like he let him continue to run on the front there, knowing he didn't have enough energy to get past, just went for time there. Davis comes home with the win.
48-25, a nice run. And again, despite that misstep at about 160 meters right at the brake line, again, coming off that big banking, trying to get to the rail in an efficient manner, and he got the job done.
You can tell he almost looks like an angry runner out there with his sense of urgency to get to that line. Such a hard and immense concentration of focus that you have to dial out of yourself in the 400 meters because of that break. It almost becomes like an inkling that you want to look over your shoulder and see who's behind if you've gone out the fastest. But you've got to just trust your own race plan and instincts at the end of the day.
You're going existential already this morning, Carson. Wow. Going deep into track and field. All right, heat number 6. An open lane on the inside, so 4, 5, and 6, Newman, Wheeler, and Kent. Couple D3ers in there, and Williams and SUNY Geneseo, and then Weber State making the big trip east. That is Alex Wheeler from Weber State.
Newman with a strong move down the back straightaway. He's picked up a lot of momentum in that third 100. Now he's going to try and seize on it in the last 100.
Oscar Newman from Williams at the line.
I think he got that, Phil.
It is Oscar Newman, 48.58. Wheeler, 48.65.
And again, it was that move to overtake Kent from Geneseo in that third 100. You saw that head-on shot, but it really didn't start to take shape once they hit that turn. That's when you could see how close he really got himself to Alex Wheeler to allow himself to slingshot off of that final turn and get the win.
Heat number 7 of 10. These are the invitational groups. So we will sort of erase the results once we hit our 11th heat in the 400. That will be the open group. And that's scheduled for about 40 minutes of time, taking us back to the straightaway finals and the conclusion of our live to social today. Again, all of our social platforms through FloTrack and FloSports. This live stream coverage right at your fingertips this morning and tomorrow. And we are underway.
This is section number 7. Pretty even start on the stagger. A lot of athletes trying to figure out where they place in the running. Now Truman Williams of Bates really starting to work that float phase. Run as fast and effortless as possible, breaking in.
And we do have the mixes. We see a lot here of junior college Division III D1 with Truman Williams from Bates. He had the outside perch in lane 6. He is in the lead, being chased by Wesley Noeth from BW. Baldwin Wallace out of the Ohio Athletic Conference, but it's a solid 8 to 10 meter lead for Truman Williams to the line. And he's in the 47s. Holy cow, is he happy. 47.90 for Truman Williams. A very solid effort for the young man from Bates.
He was seated at 48 flat, and while it is a little bit unorthodox to just immediately collapse on the track after a hard effort, you want to get up and cool down. He's earned it. He just ran 47. That was spectacular right there. He just looked so smooth and strong in that second lap after having already gone out hard in the first lap. The rest of the field was just fighting it out, treading water behind. What a run for Truman Williams.
Sitting number 2 right now behind the high schooler from Phillips Exeter. Heat number 8 of 10. And it's a clean start. Bloomer, Farr, Estrada, and Etienne.
Really good start by Andrew Farr from Yale, putting the pressure on early. Has already made up 2 staggers, just 2 bends in.
And he will be the first to the cones. He breaks, takes that long, slow, gradual run to the rail, but Dave Etienne from Blue Phoenix has joined him near the front. Shoulder to shoulder down the back straight.
Etienne with that long stride really used that bank to slingshot on the back stretch a little bit earlier than we usually see the slingshot technique, but he's starting to tire now. You can see the grimace on his face, and here comes Jason Estrada from Brown as well.
You see the strides on our leaders starting to shorten up. That happens in the 400 as he goes 48 high, 48.71. Official, the winner out of heat number 8.
When he made that move with 100 meters to go, he had to hope that nobody had a response. Estrada, you could argue that he had the strongest responses. He got all the way up for second, overtaking Farr by just 0.09 of a second. But Etienne really shut that heat down once he made that move. As though he was tired, everybody else was also tired. It's just a reminder to self that everybody is on that same playing field. The conditions are the same.
Throwing some that historical context, I like to interject into a live stream. The Division II all-time national record, young man by the name of Trevor Bassett, out of Bluffton High School, Ashland University, one of America's top 400-meter hurdlers, 45.27 back in 2021 in the flat 400. He also owns the 200 DU record at 20.48. The guy can definitely motor, the big guy. Andrew Rock, a big name in D3, all the way back in 2004, 46.42 for a Track Power Wisconsin lacrosse D3 national record.
I love that you mentioned Trevor Bassett, of course, at the David Hemery Valentine Invitational, named after one of the greatest 400-meter hurdlers in Great Britain history. Trevor Bassett, one of the greatest 4 hurdlers in U.S. history, and also a great Division II runner on the indoor circuit.
It is Hayden Bracci from Columbia in the Ivy League in the lead, single file running. He's got a couple stride advantage as they head into the final 60. That is Joey Richards from Southern Maine, not going to be able to close the gap. Bracci with the win in the 47s.
Was it better than 64? Ooh, wow. Right on the dot.
So we'll see. We take it down to thousandths of a second as we have a pair of 47.64s now. One out of heat number 1, one out of heat number 9. Or excuse me, heat number 3 and 9.
With Jalen Bennett, the high schooler, who's going to have to really hope and pray that he can hold on for his second consecutive win here at BU. He won the 500 meters at the Scarlet and White Invitational, the high schooler that we saw go 47.64 prior to what we just saw from Hayden Bracci from Columbia. Bracci with his 47.64 PR. He'll be thrilled with that regardless of whether he takes the win.
All right, it's going to take a monumental effort from this group in the final section. Just 3 runners, Zuri Johnson from Trinity out of Connecticut, Cody Pierce from Amherst, and Marcus Johnson from Binghamton on the outside. Their best seed times of 48.1. Right now we're a full half a second ahead of that. The number 1 time again, and it looks like Bennett has the overall lead by the narrowest of margins. He is listed number 1 at the 47.64.
So if that holds up, and if Johnson, Pierce, or Zuri Johnson cannot go faster, as Marcus Johnson's got to be careful about that inside lane line. They broke it in now, so that's irrelevant. as he takes control. 23-10, going to be really tough to close in 24 here.
Yeah, Marcus Johnson, definitely a much slower opening lap than we saw from either of those two heats.
Yellow flag there. That would be for that lane violation that we saw as he stepped on the inside of that lane 6.
So all for naught, the effort apparently from Marcus Johnson from Binghamton as he went low 48.
That's still a good close for him, as he opened that first lap at a 23-1, basically 25 flat for that second 200. A lot of 400 sprinters. I guess you could consider this one of my track kicks. A lot of them will go out a lot harder in the first lap and just fade in that second lap, but maintaining that 2-second differential between first and second lap splits is such a huge accomplishment regardless of how you finish.
And there are results. You see the pair of 47.64s at the top, 4 runners under 48 seconds, but the high schooler, Jalen Bennett from Phillips Exeter, wins the 400 Invitational at this year's David Hemery Invite at BU.
And we've still got 25 heats of 400 left, so if you're enjoying the quarter miles, do not go anywhere, because we got plenty more coming your way, and we've also got plenty more increased density to these heats. 6 guys out there running a quarter mile. That's Andrew Beers of Monmouth, who took control at the rail in heat number 1, and he leads up the back straightaway. Look out for Michael Ham of Lynchburg, making a challenge on Columbia's Nick Felix. It's going to be these 3 coming off the turn.
Andrew Beers from Monmouth.
Look
with
at the
lead
arm
in
action.
The final 40.
Michael Ham
from Lynchburg. 49-49 for a winner. Michael Ham from Lynchburg. Happy with the effort, coming all the way up here to Boston.
49,
to test
49.
his skill on the Track and Tennis Center.
Look at that time, 49-49. That's going to be a hard one to forget. But that arm action, I mentioned it coming down that home straightaway. You could just see the vast difference in power and energy that he had left. And that's what got him to that line first.
Another full field of 6. Great shot down the back straightaway. You get the responsiveness from this track. The distance runners talk about it. The track just gives back. And they're in the banking coming off. Going to break for the rail. Spencer Yee from Johns Hopkins, the early leader, as they go down the back straight for the second and final time.
Here comes Mitch Leinert of Rochester. It looks like we got a good D3 clash brewing here. Sam Belmont of Geneseo as well. Yet another 3-way battle in this 400.
Yee on the inside. Can he hold the rail? It looks like tiring, losing some form. The winner's going to be on the outside in lane 6, Sam Belmont from SUNY Geneseo.
And he had to come from 3rd in that final 200 meters, but just closed so steady. All 3 appear to be satisfied with their times. That was in the 48s there, 48.78. That'll be the new leading time for the open section. Well done by Sam Belmont.
We are rocking and rolling. Another 6 runners on the oval, running in lanes for about 160 meters. They break, and then it is all bets are off. Indoor track is a contact sport. 400-meter running at the Track and Tennis Center.
I don't think Aiden Baldelli of Monmouth wants it to be a contact sport. He wants a clean alley and avenue, but as I say that, Jack Towns of Geneseo has crept right up on his inside. And here comes Davis Lee of MIT on his outside in the dark kit.
And speaking of alley, he really was giving up that inside rail down the main straightaway to the back straight, but now he's brought things down nice and tight. Now does he have to go wide to preserve his victory? He will do that with an official time of 48.81.
Oh, he just missed the winning time from the previous section by Sam Belmont. That was at 48.78, but he'll be thrilled with this heat win nonetheless, as Baldelli nearly replicated his 48.75 seat time, but more importantly, having taken that conservative path to the inside from the break, he had nearly surrendered his lead, but he'll be happy that he was able to hold on to it.
As Carson mentioned, 25 heats in the open 400 meters. Full group of 6 on the oval in 4 and 6. Kevin Callahan from Fordham and Samuel Milivois from Rowan. And it's a 2-man match race for the rail. Callahan from Fordham gets the upper hand going down the back straight.
And he looks in control right now, but Milivois going to challenge him on his outside. He can't get to the rail, though. He's going to need to slingshot if he has the juice to do so. Look out for Christian Praisner of MIT as well.
To line, it is going to be Milivois from Rowan. 48.79.
Oh my goodness. Again, just missing it by 100th this time, but still Milivois to get that win. He's fist bumping his competitors. And it looked like with the distance that he had to cover in that final 100 meters that he was going to have a real challenge to getting there, but he just stayed patient. And once he hit that home straightaway, he just found another gear there, Phil. It was really impressive. His heat number 5 is on the track right now for the men's open 400, a quintet in this race, as no lane 6 running blind to the outside. Josiah Williams of Columbia, one on his inside. Emerson Kington of Middlebury coming down from Vermont to challenge the Ivy Leaguer from the Big Apple. These two leaving the rest of the field behind as they come through low 22s through that halfway split. Gonna battle it up the back straightaway. Kington not gaining any ground just yet on Josiah Williams, a 48.90 seed, hits the 300 mark at around 34 seconds. Here comes Emerson Kington, really gritting his teeth and working hard around the outside as well. Cameron McLeod from Tufts in third, but it is Emerson Kington, 48.76 unofficial, confirmed at 48.80. Man.
Carson, I was just taking a look at that last section. You see so many different body types in the 400. I talked earlier about Trevor Bassett, the tall, lanky guy, a high hurdler in high school. We saw a very muscular body type out front, just really gutting it out and just really hoping not to tie up in the final 50 of this race.
I wouldn't be surprised, Phil, if we see a couple of mid-Ds take shape here. Your 800 runners dropping down to the 400. Again, it's an event that, though it's not exactly suited for every type of athlete can essentially give it a shot and use what they bring to the table to do well at it.
Definitely so. With the current lead, that is Daniel Kim from WPI out front in heat number 6.
Coming over from nearby Worcester, and he looks very smooth out there. This is some of the most efficient form that I've seen yet, but he's going to need to really showcase his grit in this final 50 if he wants to hold off number 4, Michael Prentice of St. John Fisher.
Wow, a solid performance coming in with a seat time of 50.73, so Kim is going to better that, but he's going to finish second, it looks like, in that heat to Michael Prentice from St. John Fisher at 50.45.
A successful trip coming over from the ROC, Rochester area, out of Pittsford, St. John Fisher University. One of the many great Division III schools to come from the Empire State.
That is not a good sign. Anytime you see an athlete holding his head in his hands and he gets the red card, unfortunately, out of lane 1 in heat number 7, Matt Murphy. Our apologies that your day in the 400 is at an end. And we are down now to 3 athletes.
I find it funny that you said that, Phil, because whenever I finished a 400, I would always put my hands on my hips back in the day in high school. Good times.
Down the back straight, that is Moses Adu from the BDAC, opening a sizable advantage in this heat of the quarter.
Look out for Levi Beery of Colby, rocking the headband, running a little bit more patient through that first 200. He's got around 3/4 of a second to close, but he's working into this back half. Adu with such a long stride. He's going to take a lot of work to catch, though.
Now he's got the turnover to match the stride. He's holding on, but barely. Coming up to the line, he will be able to get the job done, going wire to wire. And he leans, trying to get into the 48s, not quite. 49-20 for our winner.
Moses Adu, the Canadian-born athlete. He'll get a big season best, that's for sure, as his previous best was run last week at the Track and Field Center in Toronto at 50.55. So that's always a good thing to come away with. His fastest indoor time as well.
Five of 6 lanes occupied. They will come together at the orange cones at the far end of the Track and Tennis Center. And 3 of those athletes going to be in close quarters. And the gentleman on the outside in lane number 6 with the lead, that is Logan Montgomery from St. Alson.
And he had to really work hard around 2 athletes to get to that rail, but he's continuing this train forward, just pushing ahead with every step.
Logan Montgomery is going to be a wire-to-wire 400 heat winner at BU.
And that was fast. That definitely took the lead, 48-47. For Logan Montgomery, who came in as a 49.05 seed. What a run. Section number 9 is on the track right now. A little bit greater volume in this heat than in heat number 8. But again, that new time to beat the big takeaway. 48.78 had stood since the opening section, but it is now 48.47 by Logan Montgomery.
Junior Grant from Monroe University, a very sizable lead after 200 meters. He was out in lane 6. He had a free and clear route to the inside. But things are getting tight. On the outside, that is Nolan McKenna from Trinity out of Connecticut, the new leader in the final 50 meters. And he just misses the 48s, 49-29 for Nolan McKenna, the senior from Trinity.
A great run for McKenna coming down from his 49.87, 49.29, and a great move in that final 100 meters. Junior Grant from Monroe University took it out hard, but again, that's just a risky run when you put yourself out there like a sitting duck. He held on for 3rd just behind Brendan Rogers of Holy Cross.
Lanes 1 through 5 filled in heat number 10. And on the inside in lane 2, that is Nathaniel Gardner from Middlebury was running a good turn, but couldn't keep up to Mason Childers from Dartmouth. The big green in the Ivy League, he's up by 8 meters, pushing 10. As Zane Gordon from UMass Dartmouth in the number 2 spot.
He's got a lot of ground to make up on the man coming down from the woods in the big green, Mason Childers, but here comes Zane Gordon. He's getting it done.
You see, when the stride shortens up and the eyes get big, you know you might be in trouble, but Childers held on for the win. 48.91 by 0.12 of a second.
In his mind, there had to have been not a shadow of a doubt that he could hold on for that win and get that sub 49. You got to go out hard if you want to go after it. You know, get his first indoors today. Again, we think of BU more so for what we're going to see on the distance side, but we've seen a lot of fast times achieved in the sprints thus far, too.
And I know you've been up here a couple times now, Carson, but I am always in awe by the efficiency of meet management here, how quickly they go from one heat of the 400, one heat of the 200, one heat of the 5, whatever it is, to the next one on the track. Everybody's set, a fair start, and bringing it through this time from Fordham, our leader in heat number 11, and that is Sam Freeman.
Running free down that back stretch.
Runner.
Let's see if he can get close to that. Here comes Arthur Ribeiro from Holy Cross on his inside and 4. Doesn't quite have the lane to get to the track and line, though. As far as first place goes, Sam Freeman.
49.13, just a couple hundredths off of his seed time coming in for the sophomore from Fordham.
And what's incredible, flashing back to the point that you made midway through that heat, Phil, about the meet efficiency, the next group of guys were allowed to get a nice practice start in as that heat was finishing, and they're already on the line ready to go.
Again, you do have that luxury since it's not lanes all the way, so they're finishing in lanes 1, 2, maybe lane 3. So, hey guys, use the outside 4, 5, and 6, and we're going to keep this meet moving along. As field of 4 in heat number 12, everybody's on the outside. Chu, DiGiulio, Hansen, and Rose. And it is Camden Rose from the Rams of Rhode Island in lane 6 in the lead.
And he really kicked well off of that downgrade coming off of the break and put a few meters on the next closest athlete, Colin Hansen from Springfield College. But here comes Hansen. He played it patient off the break, and here he comes.
Camden Rose, Colin Hansen. And it's going to be the Baby Blue from Rhode Island with the win. Happy, hands together, 48-72. Camden Rose, a freshman from Rhode Island.
And not only is Camden Rose happy, his roadie crowd is happy too. They gave him a little round of applause just right in front of our broadcast area, and deservedly so. He just clocked the second fastest overall time, 48.72. And that was out of heat number 12.
Heat number 13, as I mentioned again, that new NCAA seating policy. The other new NCAA policy that meet management has to work with is the inspection of shoes to make certain that nobody has illegal shoes. They have to take a look at, I believe, 10% of the spikes. So when you have like 2,000 athletes and you got to take a look at 200 pairs of shoes.
And it makes sense, too, why midway through this meet, they basically only allow the distance runners to be in at one time so that they can check everybody in an orderly fashion. Here comes Arjun Ojha from Geneseo. Another quick one here, sub 49 confirmed. Towing Nelson Lindsay of Fordham just a few short tenths behind him. 48.91 to 49.36. Those two were battling all the way around and ended up finishing 1-2 in heat number 13. This is section number 14 of the men's open 400-meter dash. We're about to welcome a special guest into our broadcast momentarily. But in the meantime, we've got Andrew Fasone from Binghamton. Not used to seeing him in green colors, as during his high school years, I watched him don the red of the Somers Tuskers from Westchester County. But he goes through just sub 23 for that opening 200, followed by New England Elite's Owen Empey right behind him in second. In third is Reed Dexter from the Red Foxes of Marist. But leading into the final 100, still Andrew Fasone, the freshman from Binghamton.
So full field of 6, and one thing you're going to get some tight racing up front and also some lengthening out of the field because of that NCAA seating policy. It is New England Elite's Owen Empey. Did he get there in time? I don't think so. Nope. The win goes to Ray Kwiatek from New England Elite. Oh, it is Kwiatek on the outside.
The other New England Elite athlete.
49.66 doubles up front.
Apologies for the mis-ID earlier on the New England Elite runner. Empey's finished 5th in that heat, but Kwiatek, wow, just got that lean by thousands over Fasone, who had led for the first 399.99 meters. Wow.
The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, I think somebody once said. Heat number 15 for all those old schoolers following along with us today. Hopefully some of the youngsters have seen that on YouTube or elsewhere, right? Heat number 15, battling on the outside in 5 and 6.
And lane 5, Nicholas Arnold of Eastern Mennonite stepped multiple times on the inside of his lane. There's a yellow flag up as well, so he'll get a lane violation, but Corinthian Reed is still on the lead regardless.
It is not easy to hold that line, trying to get as close as possible to your inside lane line, because that's the distance where they measure from that inside lane line or the rail, as Corinthian Reed, St. John Fisher, takes it to the house. He wins in 50.1.
A few weeks ago, I got the chance to cover the first New York International Showcase at the Ocean Breeze Athletic Complex in Staten Island. That was streamed here on MileSplit and FloTrack as well. And there were a number of athletes from Jamaica, from Australia even, that got to experience the indoor banked oval for the very first time. And a lot of them were shocked because as 200 and 400 sprinters, you're so used to leaning into that bend and not having the track do the work for you. As you said earlier, Phil, a lot of the distance runners describe it as the track kind of taking away from that effort when you're running around those banked bends. This is heat number 16 of 25. Look out for Middlebury's Alexander Swan, leading over Ronan O'Flaherty of Bowdoin College. Those two running 1 and 2 on the second lap, heading down the backstretch. Towards the final 100, that's how they remain. No real move yet by O'Flaherty. Will he pull wide? Can he get closer? Swan is tiring. You can see his facial expression. Here comes O'Flaherty, but Swan holds on. Little lean at the line, and look at that.
Wow, 48.75. We're back into 48s.
That's number 3 in the overall open standings.
I think after taking our first run into the 50s, we drop back down. And again, you're going to see that just with the seating arrangement now, as lots of open track in this one. Just 3 athletes on the oval, 2, 4, and 6. Heat number 17.
I guess every now and then we got to come up for air when it comes to the sub-50s, but 3 guys with a chance to get some more. If we look at our start list here, we've got Brady Kamali of Tufts, who's running blind on the outside in light blue. He's a 49.23 seed, so he's got a chance to get beneath that barrier. Look at how fast he's gone out, sub-23 through 200. Has about a 6-meter advantage on Evan Bryant from U of R, University of Rochester, wearing the headband, but he's making up some ground, and he has a pinpoint right on Kamali's rear end. That's what you want to set for yourself, an invisible target, and he's come up to challenge in the home straightaway.
Evan Bryant from Rochester waited and waited to make the move at the perfect time. He runs in the 50s, but he gets a win here at BU, 50.38 seconds. The sophomore from Rochester.
A great run as he gets a little post-race pant in. Evan Bryant. Again, you could almost see in his eyebrows expression that he was just hungry for that win.
Out in lane 5 in heat number 18, Jarquil Young from Rowan. We talked about them dominating the 60-meter prelims, looking pretty strong through the opening 160 in the 400. Not the first to reach the break line, but still in the conversation. Now he's in the lead. Young from Rowan. Down the back straight, still a couple meter advantage over 3 runners within 4 strides, but it is Jarquil Young, a 49.2 junior 400 runner. He takes it to the house and is going to be in the 49s.
And you mentioned his university, Rowan, Phil. Well, one of the 3 top 5 ranked Division III hurdlers that we saw earlier just so happened to be Jarquil's twin brother, Marquise Young, who we'll see back for the 60 hurdles finals towards the end of our opening morning program at around the 10:40 a.m. hour. We're still about 18 minutes between now and then, but nice to see the young twins executing here at BU.
So they're quick on the straightaway and also quick on the oval. The guys from Rowan, this is men's day, day one, the David Hemery Valentine Invitational at BU. Heat number 1-9. As getting to the brake line and the rail in start finish first, that is Tristan Miller from Holy Cross. 2 runners in this section in the 49 seed-wise, and they're up front. It is Tristan Miller, though. He's going to take this one wire to wire with the victory, and he's in the 48s. What a run out of heat number 19. Tristan Miller, 48.72. He wins by 3/4 of a second. He is number 2, tied with Camden Rose. We'll see who gets that on the thousandths of a second, but congratulations, Tristan Miller, a big personal best for the sophomore.
And it doesn't matter how large or how small your heat is, you still have a chance to run fast. I mean, that was heat 19, this is heat 20, and we're still getting times that are factoring very highly in the open overall standings.
They are blazing away here on the oval at the track and tennis center, Ashford Street, Boston, Massachusetts. And the leader right now on the outside in lane number 6, Ross Stevens, an unattached athlete. We will see age groupers, we'll see high schoolers, we see post-collegiate athletes, we see the finest athletes on the planet here at BU Live on the FloTrack live stream.
Look at Ross Stevens, just powerful all the way through. He's going to go fast here.
Another 48 clocking, 48.91 for Ross Stevens.
Just a junior from Conval High School out of Peterborough, New Hampshire. Coming down, having won his Division II state championship in the 300 just last week, steps it up another 100 meters in distance, and runs pretty darn well, if I do say so myself. That's a PR.
And a clean start for the field. We've been pretty clean so far today. Only 1 red card displayed, unfortunately, earlier in the quarter. Wow, in lane 4, we haven't seen that too much. Tucker Engelmeyer from Providence. A man on a mission. He gets to the cones first, but can he hold the rail and the lead? No, he gets shut by Nathan Sims from Rhode Island. Slammed the door going into turn 1 just past start finish.
Sims had to jackknife his way between Engelmeyer and Ford from Tufts, and that was a huge turning point in the race as he's got the lead coming off of the turn still.
Nathan Sims, freshman from Rhode Island. Can he make the 48? Oh, just missed. Close to that seed time. 49.47 for Nathan Sims.
Pretty darn close indeed, just within 7/100ths of it. And that was yet another race that we saw that contact come into effect. Came down to that, and race never got any closer since that halfway split. Just 4 heats left here of the 400 open, and this time we got 5 athletes out there. We got Phillips Exeter. You see the E second from your left. That is Zylan Campbell coming from the same high school as Jalen Bennett, our overall open invite heat winner. Luke Halberner, though, from Rowan University from good old NJ, will lead off of the turn and break. 23-24, his unofficial opening 200 split. I'll tell you, though, Campbell, who went out very smooth in that first 100, has tucked right in behind to enter the final 100 just beneath 36. Right behind him, wearing that red kit, is the man from Worcester Polytechnic, Gabe Demore. He'll have to settle for a battle for third as Luke Halberner from Rowan outdoes his seed time by a few tenths and 100th, from 49.46 down to 49.15. Zylan Campbell, the high schooler, 49.64 in second. Gabe Demore from Worcester Polytechnic just holds off Shane McKean of New England Elite for the number 3 finish. So just 3 heats left, and this 23rd section is underway right now, including an athlete that I had a chance to catch up with before action got underway. That is Stephen Fajan from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute. He's in lane number 4. Said he was really excited to compete here today. Coming from Columbia High School in East Greenbush, New York, just around 15 minutes away from where he goes to college in Rensselaer. And he'll take the lead over Maddox Cale of Southern Maine. Slotting right in behind him now, tucking out, rocking the blue headband and pulling ahead with 100 meters to go, right around 36 flat through 3. And it looks like this race is all but his as Maddox Cahill looking for a strong close, really pumping the arms to the line. Cahill goes sub 50. 49.46 in the seedings. He'll go 49.65 come the finish. Stephen Fajan in second. And then Eli Wawerzik from Brandeis in third. Penultimate section of the men's open 400 is underway. Lanes 2, 3, 4, and 6. And closing the gap smoothly and steadily is John Mueller from Brown University, making up some stagger on Peter Kavanaugh of RPI and pulling away from the 2 men on his interior. He's going to look for a solo time trial effort here as he approaches the break point just beneath 23. Kavanaugh perhaps trying the opposite strategy of his teammate from the previous heat, Stephen Fajan. Going to try and make it count in the back half as he is pulled within 3 meters, just past 300. And here he comes. It's Brown and RPI, and the D3 school is going to surge ahead. Peter Kavanaugh with a lean. Going to go 50-28, 50-23 official. Winning by just 1900ths over John Mueller from Brown University. After these 400s, we're going to transition to our next event, the 60 hurdles final. But let's enjoy this final heat while we've got it. Really attacking it on the outside. Remember that time to beat 48.47. You got to go quickly in that first 200 if you want to finish that fast in the overall 400.
Again, our 25th and final open 400, a battle to start finish. We've seen some great 48-second runs, Carson, out of these final heats.
Mason Winslow's trying to go 48. He's gone 49.55 before this. And Cleon Joseph of Monroe University from the Bronx, 49.57. These two gonna really have to work if they want to get that winning time and the win in and of itself.
So the JUCO in D3 battling to the line just outside the 48. And the win goes to Mason Winslow from Susquehanna, 49.26. So he wins by 4/10. Some great 400-meter action, Carson, this morning, day one.
Absolutely. And one thing I just love about big open series like this, sometimes it's not even about the time. Even in the races that finished outside of sub 50, we still saw a lot of great moves being made, a lot of changes throughout the race. And that's one beauty about the indoor 400. It's not like an outdoor 400 where everybody gets their own lane. Not that an outdoor 400 is ever stale or not exciting, because it always is, but that's just what makes the indoor 400 unique and exciting.
It is unique, and Logan Montgomery, the winner in the Open 400, 48.47. We will step aside for a few minutes. We'll be back with the 60-meter hurdle finals, and also a member of the content team here live from BU. It's the David Hemery Valentine Invitational. And we are back at the Track and Tennis Center getting set for the 60-meter hurdles. And I'm joined by Nia Gibson, member of the Flow content team. Nia, welcome.
Hi, guys. I'm happy to be here.
And you know what? I'm going to get your name, Nia, right here,
yes.
one of these times. So Nia, member of the content team since September. And in the middle of the track, the men from Rowan, they dominated the prelims. They're going to go 1, 2, 3 in the final. Nia, the 60 hurdles is just it's an incredible race. So many things happen so fast. You look back through the straightaway, you see all the beat up and battered hurdles. It is a difficult event.
Yes. It's one of the most difficult events, I would say, in track and field. Like with the shorter sprints, you already have such little room for error, but especially with the hurdles. Now you have 60 meters plus the barriers, and you have to be honed in, you have to be focused. Those barriers that you're knocking over, maybe your opponent's knocking over, you just kind of have to be zeroed in on the finish line to make sure that you're not distracted.
So we had mentioned earlier that the gentleman from Rowan, the top hurdlers in Division III in the country, Jameer Brown, 792 for the win. He came in at 805, so he improved tremendously in the final. Not always easily done, but that's what you really want to do, get faster in the final.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So definitely kudos to him, the training. I'm sure from his last race, they figured out maybe what went wrong so we can figure out what goes right today.
So, Nia, and jumping ahead to the later events today, tell me about some of the events. Obviously, the content team is just primed and focused to really communicate back to our subscribers. What's the big focus today?
Yeah, our big focus today is 100% the distance races. Although I will say every single race here is going to get love, especially in spirit of Valentine's Day. But, you know, the focus today definitely are the distance races. In particular, the 5,000 meters. Grant Fisher is in that race, and he's going for the world record. Now, if you remember, just 2 weeks ago, he was going for the American record, but last week at the Melrose Games, he broke the 3,000-meter world record, so, you know, he does have a bit of a battery in his back. He asked the pacer to go, I believe, at a 12:52 pace.
12:42.
12:42 pace, yes, and he is going for it. He's gunning for it. Now, you know, one thing I am a little concerned about is that he has a lot of mileage on his legs. This will be his third race in 12 days. But, again, he does have a lot of grit, and when he has a pacer by his side, he is unstoppable. Last week when I spoke to him at Melrose Games, it was Cole Hawker that he really gave credit to for running that fast time. He said he couldn't have done it without him. So I'm excited to see what he does today. We're all excited, and I really do believe we're in for a treat.
Yeah, and Hawker obviously pushed him to the world record in the 3K, because if it wasn't without Cole, that wouldn't have happened. But being at the top of your game, hitting a world record, even though it's going to add some lactic to your legs, it really does have to give you, at least psychologically, the boost. Hey, I can go out in 12:42, and we'll see how we finish. He's run fast here before. He's run one of the top 5 times in world history on this oval. He knows the track, so things are really looking good for a great 5K.
For sure, and I do think BU is one of like the indoor homes for records. So again, in for a treat. I think we're in for a really fast time, and I do think this entire this track is going to erupt when he comes within the final 400 meter. His kick is dangerous.
We are ready and set for the 60-meter dash final. All 9 athletes are in attendance. Jaden Jackson, Sprint Tech, British Virgin Islands, in the middle of the track in lane 5. He was the only one under 7 seconds in the prelims at 6:95. A good start. The young man stayed low and fast. Coming up to the line is going to be close. Mikkel Basu in lane 2. They're in the 6.8s, folks. It is Basu at 6:88. A big drop. The top 2 congratulate each other. Jackson goes 6:89 in the middle of the track. Third at 6:90. Wow, what a 60 dash final.
Yeah, and kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the amount of time you have versus what you don't. Basu executed that race perfectly. The way he started, the way his top end speed came into play, and just the finish. That was a perfect race from top to bottom.
So again, today the focus is on the men. Tomorrow, quickly, Nia, just looking ahead to tomorrow's women's races.
Yes.
What's the primo races tomorrow for the women?
Same as the men in terms of 800 and up, but I am really zeroed in on that 3K. Doris Lemon-Gole of Alabama is going to be here. And if you remember, guys, just quick reminder, in December, she broke Parker Valby's record right here on this track. So, I mentioned we were talking about the guys that this was home of the records in terms of indoor season. And I think Doris, she's a gutsy runner. She's a NCAA champion. Like, she has range. So I think we're in for a treat again for here.
Again, she's been here. She knows how to run fast on this oval. They're getting the track set up. We're coming back for the 800-meter run live from BU. And we are back ready for my favorite event, Carson, the 800 meters. And we have 800U in big, wide, big, full attendance on the oval. Penn State University, Olivier Demule, Darius Smallwood, and David Locke. But they're going to go head-to-head against Tanada Matsatsa, who set a 1K collegiate record earlier this year. He runs for Georgetown.
Matsatsa running his first 800, arguably his best distance, but we've seen him really improve the longer mid-distance end of his range, dropping that 2:16.84 and former mile school record for Georgetown, 3:54.15. They're going to look to make this a fast race, paced around 51 seconds flat through that opening 400.
That's James Oliver, our rabbit up front, wearing number 9. As I mentioned, the heavy collegiate focus as Oliver took a quick look over his inside shoulder. Another one at the end of the back straightaway, trying to hit that 51 flat. The 800 meters is just loaded with talent this year at the collegiate ranks as Oliver pulls to the outside. A little quick 50 points. But right behind him, it is Darius Smallwood from Penn State. I saw Coach John Gondak on the oval make certain the rail was set up properly. He wants his guys to run fast, and he has the leader right now in Darius Smallwood, a 1:46.800 runner, but he is not alone.
Tanada Matsatsa right there on the shoulder, and also wearing hip number 6 is Cyan McPhillips, the unattached pro for Team Ireland. Matsatsa with the lead at the bell.
1:17 at the bell as Matsatsa starts to pull out of a lead of about 5 to 6 meters. And coming up into the number 2 spots, Ian McPhillips running unattached. He is closing. Can he bring home the collegiate from Georgetown? Matsatsa 1:45.17 is his lifetime best. He is going to hold on. He runs 1:45 low. The official time is 1:45.21. Wow, just missed that 1:45.17, getting a nice round of applause from the crowd.
That is the number 1 time in the NCAA in his season-opening 800. Tanada Matsatsa has been borderline unstoppable. You have to put him on the track as a pacer for him to not win a race at this rate, as he did that last week for his teammate Abel Tefra in the mile, but dropping down to his bread-and-butter distance that he made the finals at Olympic trials in, nearly setting a lifetime best. What a campaign.
0.3 of a second faster than the previous number 1 in the collegiate ranks, and really only a couple tenths off the all-time collegiate record by Paul Rang from Virginia all the way back in 1989, 1:44.84 at the World Indoor Championships that year. But again, it's not only the first team that we have a talented bunch of runners that is number 4 all-time. Behind Orang, and then Michael Ceruni from UTEP had a pair of clocking. So number 3 performer, number 4 performance all time in the collegiate men's 800 meters, heat number 2 on the oval.